Belgioioso Cheese is a family-owned and operated company specializing in artisan Italian cheesemaking. Using only natural ingredients and fresh local Wisconsin milk, master cheesemakers handcraft the full line of exceptional cheeses, guided by a commitment to quality and a respect for tradition. Ask your distributor about Belgioioso's award-winning fresh mozzarella, burrata, ricotta, mascarpone, American Grana, and Parmesan. At Belgioioso, every cheese is a specialty.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Extra Serving, a podcast from Nation's Restaurant News. I'm Sam Oches, editor-in-chief of NRN. Today, we have a lot to share ahead of Christmas. We are going to talk about Taco Bell and their new beverage-centric concept. We're also going to talk about Papa John's and what's going on at Papa John's and whether new CEO Todd Penegor can turn the ship around over there. We'll talk about menu prices and how restaurant menu prices are closing the gap with grocery prices for the first time in a long while, and some late-breaking news. We're recording on Monday, and just this morning, we got wind of Starbucks and their benefits that they are changing so that they can make Starbucks the best place in retail to work, according to Brian Nichol. But I can't talk about any of that without bringing in my favorite colleague. Just kidding, everybody. Just kidding to all the rest of our colleagues. But I like her nonetheless. Alicia Kelso, executive editor of NRN. Alicia, welcome.
Thank you. I'm a panda.
You are a panda. Come on. For those who are watching the video, give it the full effect. Let's see.
All right. Hold on a sec.
And to anybody who's just doing audio, you got to go find the YouTube video of this.
So I received this Panda Sherpa hoodie sweatshirt from Panda Express last week, and it's like you can't pick a favorite piece of swag because they're all so awesome. But I work in my basement in Louisville, Kentucky. It gets awfully cold down here. So I'm really excited about this. I picked my kid up from school wearing this the other day, and he was less thrilled than I was. But I'm just going to cozy up down here in my basement and get some work done as a panda.
Super jealous. I too work out of my basement in neighboring Ohio, so I know the struggle, Alicia. It is cold as we speak. I'm cold. That's why I'm crossing my arms. I don't have a panda parka to put on. Maybe I need a Snuggie or some sort. Again, not a cry for any particular merch from the audience.
It sounds like it was.
I can wrap myself in the mini sheets covering the fort my children built that I'm staring at when I look over this way. Lots of sheets covering that fort. Just need to wrap myself in one of them. Alicia, we got to get into it because there's a lot to talk about. So let's just jump right in. Football's winding down. We don't really need to talk about football. Let's
the
talk
Lions
about
lost anyway. So
yeah, that's right. It would just be too much pain. And I read I'm expecting the Browns implosion coach carousel to be a part of my life in the next couple of weeks, like it was for a lot of years. So we're too depressed to talk about that. Instead, let's jump into Taco Bell. Taco Bell announced Live Mas Café, a beverage-centric concept. Seems to be in line with McDonald's CosMc. It seems to really be following along in the trend in beverage that's ongoing. Alicia, what do you make of the Live Mas Café and the role it might play in Taco Bell going forward?
I think it's fun. I think it's cool. I think, we again tamp down our expectations here because it is simple. It's simply one pilot right now. And exists in a restaurant in San Diego in partnership with longtime franchisee Diversified Restaurant Group. So this sort of, off to the center area, it does have its own signage, and you can clearly tell it's a different sort of prototype within a traditional Taco Bell restaurant. And it is focused, like you said, simply on beverages. So everything from the chillers, the coffee chillers and churro chillers that Taco Bell has been testing for a little over a year now. Aqua refrescas, coffees, just all of that alongside traditional Taco Bell menus. And just an aside here, I have been begging Taco Bell to bring their churro chillers nationwide for a long time because they're so good. And I had the opportunity to try them for the first time last year at their Live Mas Live event in Las Vegas. And again, when I went to headquarters in July. And what's happening here is Taco Bell is really pushing the gas on obviously on all menu innovation, as evidenced this year. I think they had 30 plus launches, including a whole new platform with their chicken cantina, but they're also really homing in on beverages. In fact, their chief marketing officer, Taylor Montgomery, said earlier this year that they want their beverages to be just as iconic as their food. And all of these tests really underscore that. Now, as they're doing so, they're not just throwing specialty beverages out there. They're making sure that these are very close to what the brand of Taco Bell is. The churro chillers, for example, have little pieces of churro crumbled within the drink. So they're very signature Taco Bell, what you would expect, from Taco Bell. And we'll see where this goes. Diversified Restaurant Group, that franchisee we talked about earlier, they have taken a lot of risks with their franchisor Taco Bell. Diversified is the very first franchisee that launched a cantina restaurant, for example. For the uninitiated, those are the bigger sort of full service restaurants that serve alcohol. They've tested, EV charging stations, all sorts of things. So I think this is the perfect partner for Taco Bell to try this out. San Diego is a good market. Obviously, it's close to headquarters. I do want to caution there are probably some risks here. When you take your eye off the core of the business, there's always a risk. There's operational complexities, things of that nature. But Taco Bell, the core business is doing really well. So I think it has a little bit of wiggle room to experiment here and sort of shift maybe a little bit of focus over here, especially in a category that is completely on fire right now.
Yep.
I mean, undeniably, there has been no slowing down in the specialty beverage space. You mentioned CosMc's, McDonald's launched last year. We're seeing Dutch Bros, Seven Brew scooters, all of those concepts grow by double and triple digits in some instances. It's clear that this is what consumers want.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Taco Bell has earned the right to do this because they're doing so well. And by the way, you mentioned, experimenting. Experimenting is what Taco Bell does. Nobody bats an eye when Taco Bell comes up with some crazy new product, food or beverage. When Taco Bell comes out with a new concept, I mean, they have a lot of license. Probably, I would argue, the most in the restaurant industry to try crazy stuff. Because it's just sort of the ethos of Taco Bell. It's in their DNA. This is what they do. So for Taco Bell to do something like this, I'm not so surprised. And to be honest with you, even if it ends up being a failure, however we define that, we'll move on and go, oh, well, because it's Taco Bell. They kind of try stuff. They see what works. And some of it works really, really well. So you can't fault them for trying. And Diversified, to your point, I mean, they have a couple hundred restaurants by now. Diversified Restaurant Group does. And it's in their best interest to support their franchisor. There's a great relationship that those two sides have. And so to be able to come out and test something like this and show Taco Bell how this could be a good opportunity for franchisees, look, franchisors, that's their main job, is to protect the profitability of your franchisee, to provide them the tools that they need to be profitable, which includes new products, which could include new concepts. So if franchisees are interested in something like this to add to their portfolio, to have a new opportunity to expand, then Taco Bell's they're doing their job. They're looking out for their franchisors and providing that. My question is, why does this have to be a separate brand? Why does this have to be, a different kind of prototype? Why can't these things just be Taco Bell's improved, innovated, enhanced beverage line? I think that about CosMc's as well. Like, I get McDonald's, finding more of the drive-thru footprint for what they're doing with CosMc's. But I still wonder, like, when you develop a whole new brand outside the core brand, you could confuse people. Like, is this related to McDonald's? Is this a Taco Bell thing? And if you're adding some confusion to it, I guess I'm trying to think of it through the consumer lens, right? Because we see this through the media lens. We've watched this industry for 15 years now, Alicia, and we understand, why they position something as a separate brand. But what does the consumer think? They go, is this a Taco Bell? Is this not a Taco Bell? So I guess that's where I land on some of these things. And by the way, do you remember, Alicia, American Taco Company? Do you remember that?
No, because I don't retain information.
Right. But also, I don't think anybody else remembers it either. It was a failed sister concept that Taco Bell launched 10 plus years ago as they tried to compete with fast casual. You might remember it if you looked at the pictures of it. It had like a skull kind of sort of a Mexican Cinco de Mayo kind of branding, I believe. And they had a lot of sort of upscale, crazy taco menu products. Anyway, point is that it just like went nowhere. And we had this moment in time where you had a lot of fast food brands in particular saying, let's compete with fast casual by developing these new fast casual prototypes.
Yeah.
Wendy's is adding like fireplaces.
KFC did KFC 11.
KFC 11, another great example. That was very trendy. Let's call it 2013 because that feels right to me. And it went absolutely nowhere. So when you try, I think to your point, Alicia, you take your eye off the ball, which is that core business, and you get distracted by these shiny things, it can really distract from what you should be doing and kind of lead you nowhere. Now, I think beverage has a way longer runway here than what we saw with fast casual 11, 12, 13 years ago. Obviously, fast casual still very successful, still very much toast of the town. But at some point, QSR was like, you know what? We're just going to do what we do really well. We're not going to get down this fast casual road. And that ended up serving them very well in the latter half of the last decade. The beverage thing is a little different because obviously all these QSRs have beverage menus. So my rant, I will end with this. Should you just develop a new beverage line within your concept and then focus on doing your drive-thru really well so you can serve that beverage out your existing drive-thrus really well? Or do you go this route that McDonald's and Taco Bell and potentially others are going where you're like, let's do a whole new prototype and, get a drive-thru only unit? That's where I fall, which is just like, it just adds a variable for consumers that it might disrupt the good thing we got going.
And I think if I can just rebut that a little bit,
sure.
I think this is more of a McCafé than a CosMc.
Okay.
And I think that is evident in the fact that the reason they're doing this test to answer all the questions you just asked, right? And all the questions I asked with operational simplicity and all that stuff and integration into the traditional menu. But this, I think, is more in line with what a McCafé represents than a CosMc. It exists in the restaurant. I don't know if that's going to be how it continues, if this test even continues. But, for now, the idea here from what I'm seeing on paper is you can order your typical Taco Bell, go over to the other kiosk and order your drink in the same restaurant. So, and it's run by the same operator, right? Same franchisee. So we're talking about add-ons, incremental sales, extra trips, special trip intents, all of that really good stuff without going to a separate entity. And you talked about profitability. There it is. You want profitability? Add some drinks.
True. Totally. That's where, that's where I do think this is different than that sort of fast casualization of the industry. Is that beverage such a high margin item? So much potential, lots of opportunity to innovate. So we'll be interesting to see. We may have more news on this matter soon, as there's clearly a trend going this direction. The major QSRs, and let's just end it with this. They are clearly paying attention to Dutch Bros and to 7 Brew and what's going on in that category. They see what's coming, and they are getting ready for it. So will be interesting to watch going into 2025. Let's talk about Papa John's. Papa John's, speaking of going into 2025, is trying to set up a plan for the near term, which, needs to be turning things around. They have endured particularly brutal quarters of late. I believe third quarter, their sales were down 6%. And this is a brand that in the height of the pandemic was just absolutely crushing it. Now, apples and oranges, of course, because of the context of what was going on in the pandemic and the fact that they were just so equipped to handle delivery. Coming down to earth, et cetera, et cetera. But, their pizza peers have, for the most part, found some stable ground, and Papa John's is still struggling to find that stable ground. Ex-Wendy's CEO Todd Penegor came out of retirement to take the CEO job at Papa John's. Alicia, I think you agree with me in sharing a great deal of respect for Todd Penegor, just a really great leader and good person that we've both enjoyed getting to know over the years. And he is now setting the plan for the months and years ahead for Papa John's and how they can do this. Tell me, Alicia, some details about how Papa John's plans to turn things around.
Yeah, there were a few things that stood out to me with this investor day that Papa John's had last week. And to your point, the impetus behind a lot of these changes is the fact that Papa John's has lost market share this year to its peers. So you can argue that pizza has come back down to earth, but that is impacting Papa John's significantly more than especially Domino's and Pizza Hut, which both have seen sequential improvement. And also to your point, Papa John's was down -6 in Q3, -4 in Q2, and -2 in Q1. So we're seeing the opposite sequential declines. And so Penegor had to come in and basically take the reins and stop some hemorrhaging that was happening. And so I think his biggest points that intrigued me during this presentation were, one, getting back to focusing on the core menu. To him, Papa John's got a little bit too carried away with innovations that were bringing in new customers, but watering down frequency, which frequency is a huge, table stakes for pizza,
Right.
especially for pizza. And so focusing on the core is becoming a bigger priority as he goes into his first full year in 2025. A lot of companies are doing this, it seems. There's a really interesting conversation about balancing innovation because traffic is down. You need those new customers, but the frequency is just as important. We're seeing McDonald's as a good example here of really focusing on their core products as an example, as the operating environment sort of remains challenged. And consumers remain picky. Those picky consumers, they want something new and sexy, but they also want something that they know that they're going to expect. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's where he's going with this. Another thing that was really interesting here is if you think about the mix of Papa John's, so delivery just outpaces barely carry out. So there's almost a near even split here. And that blows my, if you would have told me that 5 years ago, I think that I would have not believed you. I would have said you were full of, what. So where this sort of trickles into another conversation is with the asset base for Papa John's, which he brought up extensively. A lot of these franchisees are, very small, single unit, if not, just a handful of units. They've been there with the system a really, really long time. He actually said some of them are dated. The average Papa John's location is 20 years old.
Wow.
I've got one less than a mile from my house. I can corroborate that just from where I live. They're old, they're dated. If you've got almost 50% of your customers now coming in, there needs to be a brand refresh. There hasn't been a brand refresh in a really, really long time. And another thing that really interested me that he said is we might have to have some tough conversation, with some of its franchisees. There needs to be a growth mindset. You can't stagnate at one or two anymore. You can't stagnate without a brand refresh. They're going to test a pilot remodel next year. And so I think we're going to see a lot of changes here, updating the system in particular. And then there's also the technology piece, of course, which is a whole different kind. We got to have a whole podcast about all of the work that Papa John's is doing to update their technology piece. He brought in Kevin Vasconi, who was previously with Domino's and then spent time at Wendy's with him. I think he's a tech genius, and they're going to just simplify things, operations. Their loyalty program is too hard. It's too, high barrier to use. So they're just doing some of the blocking and tackling to ramp up that digital presence as more consumers become digital.
Yeah, it's sort of hilarious to say, but as I was reading through, these sort of pillars of what Penegor has said will be their direction going forward, and looking at this sort of simplification for the customer with technology, That resonated with me because as somebody who has a Papa John's basically walking distance, but who bypasses that for other pizza restaurants a lot of the time, even though I do like Papa John's pizza, I'm embarrassed to say this, but sometimes when I try to order on their app, I'm like, what am I doing? Have you ever gone through the pizza ordering process and then you get to the end and you're like, oh, I need to put in my information for loyalty. And then like your order starts over, or then, you're trying to get one of those coupons that all of them offer now. And you're like, how does this apply to my meal? And I'm a little embarrassed to say, but sometimes it is overly complicated to order Papa John's pizza, much more so than its competitors. And that's the key point here. Mm-hmm. They don't have to be necessarily, of course they have good technology by restaurant standards, but they have to have great technology because they're in pizza. Pizza is like the cradle of digital technology, especially when you're looking at Domino's. And so if they're going up against Domino's, you have got to bring it. And Papa John's, I think their technology just wasn't bringing it. And I suspect they coasted for a bit there in COVID when it was like, oh, well, we have basic digital online ordering and people need pizza. And so they're coming to us for that. Now it's, okay, we've really got to provide a more sophisticated operation here than what our peers are offering. And that's got to be as simple as possible. Just today on our staff meeting, we were talking about Domino's latest emergency pizza offering, which was connected to Stephon Diggs of the Houston Texans. And,
of your fantasy roster.
On my fantasy roster. So I get a free pizza from Domino's. Hooray. Very excited about that. And, that whole emergency pizza thing from Domino's, I think, is really clever. And this points to sort of the marketing piece of things. Again, mm-hmm. You are competing in one of the most competitive categories, pizza, and you're up against somebody like a Domino's. Papa John's, when it comes to marketing, look, love Shaq, love him. But Shaq tossing a pizza and making a Shaq-a-roni pizza, it just doesn't do it for me like something like Domino's emergency pizza does. I just think that they've got to up their game. And I think that just demonstrates the challenge ahead for Papa John's. But at the end of the day, they've got a pretty dedicated fan base. I think their product is distinct in the marketplace. If you blind test me on all of their pizzas, Papa John's is the one that jumps out to me the most. Might be because I ate it every week when I was growing up. Papa John's was my go-to. But they've really got to make it so that they can connect more directly with customers through that simplified ordering process, through the marketing message. So we'll see. I think Todd Penegor is the right man for the job, but we'll see what will.
I agree. And they brought on a new CMO from Pizza Hut, Jenna Bromberg. And it was just last year when they launched Better Get You Some, that whole marketing campaign. And I remember because I was at ICR in January. Michigan was playing the national championship game.
Oh, dear God, move along.
She actually came out during Investor Day last week and said it missed the mark.
Mm-hmm.
And so to your point about marketing, where is it going to go from here? Papa John's has a little bit of a challenge because there's a huge value war that's happening right now, and they've positioned themselves as the premium player. So they have to find a balance, and if Better Get You Some isn't resonating, we'll see what will, but that's going to be a bigger part of the conversation going ahead too.
Alicia, this is going to segue us into our next topic, which we'll just briefly touch on, but one of Papa John's major competitors ordered from on Friday night, ordered 12 wings. Do you want to guess how much the 12 wings were?
I don't eat wings.
$22, Alicia.
Ooh,
22. And initially we were doing this on DoorDash and I said, holy smokes, they've upcharged because of the delivery. So switched over to their proprietary app, still $22 for 12 wings. Ladies and gentlemen, prices are out of control. We are going to talk about that because the Consumer Price Index, according to them, the menu prices are maybe in a better position, at least closing the gap with grocery for the first time in over a year, I believe. Alicia, really quick, do we think that menu prices are coming back down to earth? Because God knows from my experience on Friday, they sure are not, at least as far as wings go.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we've got a long road ahead of us. There's a confluence of things right now that are really pressuring food input costs. And we saw that last week or the week before where Chipotle actually came out and said, we're going to raise prices 2%. Chipotle's got some wiggle room to raise prices. They've got a strong value proposition. they weren't as aggressive as a lot of people. Their demographic is a little bit higher income. QSRs probably don't have any more wiggle room to raise prices, right? The good news about November is that menu prices did close the gap for the first time since April 2023 with grocery prices. And that's been really killing us, our industry, for a really, really long time. The bad news is it was the 20th month in a row where menu prices continue to outpace inflation. This conversation is not going away. Like I said, there was a confluence of issues. One of the reasons Chipotle raised prices is because beef prices are challenged, and that is expected for the foreseeable future, for the near term at least. There's a low beef supply. We could talk about the avian flu. Egg prices are double-digit higher across the board, and then we could talk about wheat prices impacted. A lot of the wheat comes from Ukraine. There was a Papa John's executive who talked about this at length at RFDC, and so that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface if we get into the tariff conversation that is happening post-election. 90% of our avocados come from Mexico. And what is it? It's like 80%, maybe 70%. Hold on a second. I've got the number. 2/3 of our vegetables and half of our fruit and nut imports come from Mexico. So If we get into that tariff campaign promise that President-elect Trump, shared throughout his campaign, then we're going to be in for a long haul of input costs remaining elevated. And even prior to the election, the USDA forecasted that food costs will remain elevated throughout 2025, which is why we need to get savvier with middle of the P&L and efficiencies and dynamic pricing.
Oh, boy. Oh, no. The dirty word.
The dirty word.
Yeah, look, the grim reality is, too, from a consumer standpoint, the grim reality is that prices aren't going to come down. Right?
Yeah, genie's out of the bottle.
Genie's out of the bottle. We're looking for prices to stop going up. Now, but to bring it back to the point of the CPI here is you're competing with grocery. That customers increasingly are saying restaurants are too expensive, so I'm going to increase my amount of spend at grocery. So if restaurant price increases are comparable to what the supermarket industry is doing, then that's good news, I guess you could say. A silver lining is just that your competition in grocery is going up just as much. So that there is a little bit more of a pitch for restaurants to consumers that say, hey, like, we're just as expensive as those guys over there. Dine out. It's easier and convenient compared to if you're getting your food more from grocery. So again, not expecting those prices to come down, but we do want those prices to stop going up. And 2025, I think, to your point, despite all the rah-rah optimism that seems to exist right now, I think we have to pump the brakes on that a little bit, because there's not a lot of reason to be optimistic that things will get a lot better in 2025. Maybe 2025.
And value will remain a really huge part of the conversation, which means we have to figure out how to protect our margins.
Absolutely.
That value conversation is not going away.
Okay, speaking of value, let's get into our extra serving for the day. As I mentioned at the outset of this conversation, there was some breaking news this morning as we record on Monday about Starbucks and CEO Brian Niccol improving their benefits that they are offering to their employees, because Brian Niccol says he wants to turn Starbucks into the best place in retail to work. And joining us to talk about those benefits is our senior editor, Joanna Fantozzi. Joanna, welcome to Extra Serving.
Hi.
All right, Joanna, you're on the Starbucks beat, so you know this company very, very well. And today, as I just mentioned, as you were signing on, that Starbucks announced that CEO Brian Niccol wants to make this the best retail job at Starbucks. And we all know where Starbucks has been going the last few years, which is that everybody recognizes it is far from the best retail job. And that is, that's getting through to customers too, because obviously a lot of complaints about the relationship between the baristas and customers. First things first, give some specifics here. What are these new benefits that Starbucks is going to offer to their team members?
Yeah, absolutely. So the specifics is that they offer now 18 weeks of paid leave for mothers or birthing parents, and 12 12 weeks of paid leave for fathers or non-birthing parents. This is double what they previously offered, and it's available for baristas and employees that work 20 hours or more. So basically part-time or more. And yeah, it's really interesting. They now claim that they have the best parental leave policy throughout the entire retail sector. I just say claim because it's almost impossible to fact check that unless I looked up every company ever individually.
What can I expect you to, Joanna? If you could start now, report back in the next couple of months, if you don't mind.
Yeah. And the leave policy is starting in March. And this is just kind of part of a whole suite of benefits that they're kind of focusing on and touting, some of which are a little bit new and some of which have been there for a while. So,
yeah, so I'm breaking down here this announcement here that they put out. So Brian Nichols said in this announcement, they established a goal to fill 90% of retail leadership roles internally. So that's part of it. They're committing to creating a pipeline for their partners, their employees. Their college degree program, which launched a few years ago, I couldn't believe this. 15,000 partners have taken them up, have graduated from Arizona State University via an online program that Starbucks is offering, which covers 100% of tuition for that online degree, which costs on average $75,000. 15,000 partners took them up on it. That is a huge win, right?
It really is. And they paid 100% of the tuition, which is pretty crazy. It is an online university. But I do think it's really interesting because the college tuition thing is interesting because I think a lot of brands are offering that now. I know Chipotle has some version of that. I feel like there's a couple of other brands, maybe Noodles. I don't 100% remember on that. Alicia is nodding. So,
yeah.
Okay.
You're
I
good.
thought I
You're
was
good.
right on that. And then, but beyond that, I do think that the parental leave is especially interesting because I think it's a topic that you talk about a lot in not just the restaurant industry, but all sorts of industries. I feel like it's a big topic of conversation in the United States in general because the U.S. does not have an official paid parental leave policy and is one of the few countries, a few large first world countries that doesn't have that. And so it is an interesting topic. I do think, however, and this is going to sound slightly cynical, and I don't mean it in a way because it is a great offering. It's a great benefit. But at the same time, I will say that if you connect this to the Starbucks's previously rocky relationship with unions, this isn't necessarily benefits isn't necessarily what union members and advocates were concerned about. I think it's been known for a long time that Starbucks offers really great benefits, especially as compared to some other people in the industry, some other brands in the industry. But at the same time, the concerns really were more around scheduling and being understaffed and feeling like they didn't really have the tools to deal with the really peak hours. And I think that they're working on that as well. But I don't know if this is necessarily going to move the needle on, if it's meant to move the needle on fewer stores becoming unionized.
Yeah, it's certainly a start, and I think most important to Starbucks is making waves. It's getting people's attention. It's getting our attention. We're talking about it, but certainly making an effort toward the partners and showing that they are trying, that this is a gesture to those existing employees. Obviously, what they really want is they want this to be a pitch for recruitment. They want potential Starbucks employees to see these benefits and say, oh, wow, Starbucks, that's a great opportunity. I want to go there instead of the competitor, because increasingly lots of competitors fighting for the same people. As we all know, unemployment rate is low and those jobs are scarce, and Starbucks fighting for those same employees who might be going for one of the competitors. So they've got to get the attention. They got to show that they're trying. This is a good gesture, I think. Imperfect, yes, but aren't they all? And on the grand scheme of things, if you look at the whole industry and what other companies are offering, I do think Starbucks rises above most of them. Alicia, what do you make of these benefits, and do you think it can help kind of give this jolt to Starbucks, no pun intended.
Jolt to Starbucks, absolutely. A jolt to the industry. I love this conversation. I love the evolution of this conversation. We've been evolving this conversation, especially in earnest since the pandemic, on how to make the restaurant industry a career and get away from that perception that it's just a starter level job. This is a huge step. We've got a turnover problem in this industry. We always have. And turnover is expensive. Training is expensive. Recruitment is expensive. At a time where Sam, you and I just talked about input costs, at a time where we have to get more efficient and sophisticated about efficiency than ever because the genies are out of the bottle all over the place, whether it's food costs or labor costs or something, energy costs or insurance, whatever, we have to be more efficient. And there's a strong return on investment here. With retention. It's proven that there's a strong return on investment with retention. Parental leave is one, like Joanna's point, parental leave is a huge hill to overcome as part of that conversation. We've seen these benefits evolving for so long, from education to mental wellness and physical wellness, financial literacy, everything that we can do to make our employees happy. We know happy employees make happy customers. It's a virtuous cycle here. I do think that there are two, sort of last things to conquer as it pertains to this, this conversation in general. The parental leave one can go with childcare benefits eventually. That is a huge one that we need to figure out. And then, of course, the 401k conversation really complicates how we make this into a more of a career conversation. But this, I think, is a huge start. I think others will follow suit. They have to your point, Sam, because of the competition. And I love where this is going. Hurrah!
We got a hurrah out of Alicia. Joanna, something you'd like to add to that? A hooray, a woohoo.
Yes, I will add a woo for sure.
Great.
So I'm glad that you mentioned childcare, Alicia, because I was actually thinking of that as well. I think it does go hand in hand. Hopefully they announce maybe benefits related to that. I think it's so interesting because we've had this conversation a lot. Again, this is not just about the restaurant and food service industry. This is in the United States that childcare is an issue for working parents as well. And a lot of the solution, or one of the major solutions that we've written about and talked about is companies offering kind of in-house childcare. But the thing is that really only works for corporate employees. You're not going to have I feel like I've said this before, but you're not going to have like a Starbucks with like a daycare in the back. So, I mean, maybe.
Pretty cool.
But I think it's less likely than having just like a company with a big corporate campus. I think that's more doable for sure. And so hopefully this conversation is able to evolve and Starbucks can kind of lead the way with that. And then also kind of related to just in general what this means for Starbucks is that you mentioned that Starbucks is my beat, and I feel like it's one of my busiest beats, especially lately. And yep. I think that it just feels like it's a good thing that I guess they're paying Brian Niccol the big bucks for a reason, because it feels like there's new news and changes every day or every other day coming out of Starbucks. And so it's good that he is trying to shake things up, because I do think it's needed.
This was the playbook at Chipotle. I remember, Chipotle, he showed up, and for a company that had famously been pretty tight-lipped before Brian Niccol at Chipotle, he gave us a lot of reason to talk about them. And same thing with Starbucks right now. He's giving us a lot of reason to talk about them. Now, that's us in media. That doesn't, of course, hundreds of millions of consumers to also consider. But it's getting our attention. I think it's getting consumers' attention as well. Last thing I'd like to say too, to kind of wrap up what both of you are saying, bringing it back to that whole talent pipeline and turnover, like you were talking about, Alicia. When you think about what gets in the way of a young employee getting to a management position or a leadership position, a lot of these things Starbucks is trying to help address. The paying for the tuition for an online degree, parental leave, childcare. I mean, these kinds of things are what people fall off the career ladder for. And what have we talked about for the last couple of years? The fact that the manager, the general manager, is the most important position, that the people in management at the store level are so important to creating that great experience for customers. Starbucks is really struggling with having a great experience for customers. They need better managers. How do you get better managers? You take care of those hurdles that they face in their life. Now, this is not perfect, of course, because of managers of all stripes, certainly and of all ages, but if you look at trying to build a robust pipeline, generally speaking, you're probably dealing with a lot of young customers who may not see food service as a career. Show them that it can be a career by helping them through all those hurdles, getting them through that pipeline to a point where they're making six figures. They have a great deal of responsibility. They're very happy. So I think that's where there is a lot of progress here. And so to both of your points, I think it's good that Starbucks is starting this conversation, moving the ball down the field, and hopefully the rest of the industry takes note. Okay, we have to wrap this up, but I want to get to our lightning round, of course, and it is 1 week, just over 1 week till Christmas. So, of course, I have to ask, favorite Christmas song, Joanna, go.
Okay, so you didn't warn me about this.
It's a lightning round, Joanna. I can't warn you about that.
I feel like classic one, it would probably be, I don't know if it's like a lame one, but Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, it's always been one of my favorites. The original. I'm not
no lame
a
answers
fan
here.
of covers of classic. I feel like they're never as good as the original.
Fair enough. There's no lame answers here because we're a very small sandbox when it comes to Christmas songs, so we could share them. It's okay. And there's no lame answers. Alicia, what's your favorite Christmas song?
Traditional Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas and non-traditional Christmas Wrapping by the Waitresses.
Ooh, that's a good
You
one
are just
too.
ready for that. You are on top of it. You've given this some thought.
Because I just asked my entire family that on Saturday because we had a mix going. I was like, oh, I love this song.
Okay.
Well, I have one non-traditional one. This is very, very dark, and it is technically food related. Sorry, this is extremely dark.
Let's hear it.
There is a parody of Chestnuts roast the Christmas song called Chipmunks Roasting on an Open Fire. That's about you getting mad at the Chipmunk song, and then you cook them. Anyway, and it's really funny. It is dark, but it's very, very funny.
That funny is always welcome in my household. In the same vein as the two of you, I'll go traditional. Got to go Little Drummer Boy, of course, because as a drummer, I've always embraced that song. Non-traditional, I'm going to say Christmas Unicorn by Sufjan Stevens. 12-minute epic Christmas song. Find it on Spotify. You'll be dancing. It is a danceable 12-minute Christmas epic tune called Christmas Unicorn. You'll be thanking me later. Okay, we are going to roll now into an interview that our very own senior food and beverage editor, Bret Thorn, did with Brendan Mullan, the head of culinary at Iron Hill. Alicia Kelso, Joanna Fantozzi, thanks as always for joining me on Extra Serving.
Thanks for having us.
How are you, Brendan Mullan?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here. You are the corporate chef of Iron Hill Restaurant and Brewery. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you've been there like quite a while, right? You were a regional chef or something?
Yes, I'm going on 9 years here.
Whoa.
Started out as an executive chef of the Westchester location. Part of the menu team. We did all the culinary work out of the Westchester location. I'm actually in the Westchester location today. And then I was a regional chef from 2018 to 2021. Things got a little hairy during the pandemic, and we all kind of did a bunch of different jobs. And as of 2024, I was promoted to the corporate executive chef. So I'm running the culinary program. Thank you.
Awesome. And Westchester, Pennsylvania, right?
Yes, correct.
Because I live in New York, so we think of, Westchester County, New York.
Oh, yeah.
You are all in Philadelphia and its suburbs, right? Pretty much?
Well, we actually have restaurants down south now, too. Most of our restaurants are in the tri-state area. So we have 2 in New Jersey, 3 in Delaware, which was our first store, which was Newark, Delaware, University of Delaware, where I graduated, actually. And then most of our stores are in Pennsylvania, around the southeast Pennsylvania region. But we did open up in Greenville, South Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, and Columbia, South Carolina. So we have 3 locations down south now.
That's cool. And how did you start cooking with Iron Hill?
Oh, wow. I grew up in the Philadelphia area, and that's where I got my first restaurant job at a mom and pop restaurant on South Street called Bridget-Foy's. So that's where I came up as a line cook. And when I was, promoted to sous chef and then executive chef, and I went on to work for Star Restaurants, which is a big time player in the Philadelphia area. And then I was a fan of Iron Hill growing up in that area, and in University of Delaware as well. When they were hiring, I interviewed for a position as executive chef, but also on the culinary team. So that was it was a perfect fit.
So executive chef, but the culinary team being the menu development team?
Yes, the menu development team. So we would test everything out of the Westchester restaurant. Back then it was the founder, Kevin Davies, was the culinary director, and the assistant culinary director and myself made the menu development team, or the culinary team. And that has evolved since.
So the team is larger now, or what? How is
the team is smaller. I lead the culinary department as the corporate executive chef. And then I have resources outside of the culinary department that help me with that. A lot of the executive chefs of the restaurants assist in a similar way that I used to assist the culinary director. And then we have, kind of a cross-functional team of our regional managers, our COO, our CEO, and the marketing team.
I see. And so how does the whole process work when it comes to creating the menu items?
Oh, wow. So a lot of times we're testing out stuff throughout the downtime where we're not necessarily in the research and development phase, but we're always trying to cook some stuff up. I'm always trying to work with the executive chefs on different recipes. And then when it comes time to ramp up for menu development, we will start by taking a look at the current menu. A lot of analysis. Some of it is pure data, pure numbers. It comes down to PMIX and revenue and food cost and things like that. Other data that we take in is guest satisfaction. We have a venue for actual food scores. We take a look at some comments, and then we decide what we're going to strip down, and we start inserting the new creative. This last menu change was a little bit different in the fact that we trimmed down the menu considerably in favor of higher execution and streamlining to try and really increase guest satisfaction, I should say, or food quality.
That sounds smart, and it seems like something that a lot of the restaurants did during the pandemic, or sort of figured out they needed to do during the pandemic to kind of just make things easier for you guys operationally. Is that part of what you guys had in mind?
Well, we've kind of gone through that phase, and now we're leaning back towards it. We did make a lot. We had to stay nimble in 2020 when the labor force wasn't what it was, and the supply chain and the cost of goods was just through the roof. And so, the consumer just wasn't purchasing food the way that they were. So we trimmed down considerably in 2020, limiting ourselves to food that traveled well. Takeout was a large portion of that business. Easier to execute foods, and just a smaller menu offering. And when we came out of COVID in 2023, one of our kind of mantras or approaches was, let's get back to what we used to do, right? Let's get back to what we were good at, which was upscale casual dining and a full menu offering with a lot of things. And I think in some ways the world changed in 2020, and certainly the restaurant world did. And so while we did grow our menu and grow our culinary offerings, it was difficult to manage, and the labor force isn't what it was, and the supply chain still being pretty tough. We did expand our menu to 87 items, which is a large menu, kind of in ballpark where we used to live pre-COVID, and found it very difficult to manage. And, we always strive to serve fresh, high quality ingredients. And so the opportunity to trim down the menu was really for the guest to have the best ingredients, the freshest, the quality, and we can execute and hit our mark.
Well, that's cool. I mean, it sounds like after, when people started coming back to restaurants after lockdown was over and stuff, you guys were like, yay, let's add a bunch of new menu items. Yeah. And so you did that, and then you were like, oh, maybe not that many.
We went for it. We sure went for it. It was something that we used to do. It was a strength of ours that we had offerings and something for everybody. And it's interesting. You never add menu items with the thought that this is going to be too much, but sometimes you find yourself in that scenario where all the good intentions and these great menu dishes that we came up with just kind of pile on, and it becomes a little bit too much to handle.
Makes perfect sense. And I've heard this story before. You guys aren't alone. It's okay. But this is a big menu change. You guys have, 11 new menu items?
Yes, we have 11 new menu items. We did some refreshes too. So some of our current menu items are the favorites. We played it differently, or we brought in a new product. So it wasn't just trimming the menu back. We really wanted it to be exciting for the guest, and not just our menu is now smaller. What we really tried to do was make the switch new and exciting, keeping all of our favorites and the stuff that really kind of built the Iron Hill Brewery culinary program, but also adding in enough new items to create some energy and some buzz around the new menu.
Yeah, so we got a crispy chicken picnic cob. That sounds fun. That's like a fried chicken salad.
Yeah, it is. It's a very bountiful salad. It's got tons and tons of premium ingredients. One of my favorite products that we brought in is our new bacon. We upgraded our bacon to a pecan wood thick cut smoked bacon, and that's featured on the salad. And then there's crispy chicken on top, but also watermelon, radish, cherry tomatoes, gorgonzola, and it's just a really fun, colorful salad.
And then you have things that seem pretty straightforward, like you have an everything focaccia.
Yeah, it's kind of our bread service where we have everything spiced focaccia, and that's coming with a compound butter that we're whipping to spread on there.
It says garlic herb butter. What kind of herbs?
So we have parsley, rosemary, thyme, and chives in there. A little bit of lemon zest, roasted garlic, sea salt. It's very savory.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I always think it's funny when restaurants say we have herbs, because all herbs are different. So
it's very true. Very true.
What specific herb? Is it shiso? Is it thyme? Could be anything. And you've got an eggplant and burrata thing. That sounds great.
Yes, this is one of the becoming one of the surprise hits of the menu. So this is our vegetarian entree. The comments that we're getting are, "I don't like eggplant, but I like this," or "I'm not a vegetarian, but I would eat this every day." So it's been a really big hit, not only with the vegetarian crowd, but with all consumers. So it's a crispy panko and pecorino crusted eggplant that we're topping with a vodka sauce, a cream tomato vodka sauce, sauteed spinach, provolone, and then on top of that is a burrata that we're melting in the oven, and a little bit of crunch with a finish of a pecorino breadcrumbs on it.
And there's you've got a green chili burger, very on trend. You got some sesame salmon.
Oh, this is one of my favorites. The miso vinaigrette. Really, really nice, sweet but savory dressing with the miso there, and then the salmon has an orange glaze that has like a ginger soy note, and then there's lots of texture, lots of crunch, some almonds, sesame seeds, watermelon, radish. Really great salad.
Sounds awesome. And you got another new burger. You got the Iron Luke's burger. That's
Yes.
$18.
This one is big. So if you like the sweet and savory combo, which is one of my favorite things, we have a bacon jam on there with a little bit of pepper. So it's got a little bit of heat, and it has that thick cut bacon that we talked about earlier, and white cheddar and smoked Gouda cheese, and a little bit of arugula, and it's on a pretzel bun. So this is your indulgent burger. It's got a little bit of everything, very well balanced flavors too. This one's doing really well for us.
Cool. And you also have a sweet heat thing on your new overloaded pepperoni pizza, right? It has hot honey on it?
Yeah, a little drizzle of hot honey on there. So it has the cupping pepperoni where you get the little pockets of the pepperoni grease that, some people want to blot it off, and some people like me are dying to have that as part of their meal. And then a little drizzle of the hot honey on there bounces out, a little sweet heat.
Awesome. And you have a queso with smoked brisket in it. That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We're serving that in a little mini cast iron skillet, so it holds its heat at the table. It's a white queso with smoked brisket, pico de gallo, some corn chips to dip with that. That one's going over really well.
And a steak frite, probably with the same garlic herb butter.
Classic steak frites, yep. The same garlic herb butter. We got a shoestring fry that we're using for our truffle fry appetizer, and for this, that's a very thin cut, skin on French fry, traditional steak frites, nice center cut New York strip steak, and a little garlic truffle aioli on the side.
And it sounds like you got some other cross utilization going on, because that burrata is also being dressed in tomato and basil pesto, right?
Yes, we have the burrata as an appetizer. Burrata, very hot product. I've seen it on a lot of menus around. That was kind of, I remember when I discovered burrata years ago, it was like cheese, stuffed cheese, yes please.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a product favorite of mine, and so we're featured in multiple spots.
And that vodka sauce that you're putting on the eggplant is also being used for rigatoni, right?
Yes. Charred broccolini, Italian sausage with this rigatoni, and then a little bit of chopped burrata on top as the garnish. Really dynamite dish.
Sounds awesome. And I didn't mean to, but we just went through all 11 of your new menu items.
Nice.
That's
great.
Pretty exciting. So what then did you get rid of while you were adding all this?
Well, so we got rid of a lot of items. We cut from 80 something down to 40 something, and you add in the new ones. We got rid of a catfish entree, a penne with chicken, a couple of our burgers. We trimmed down the salad offerings. It was really difficult to remove those items. A lot of those items resonated with the guest and sold well in the past for us. And somebody who's been part of the menu development team for the last 9 years, it's like losing one of your babies. And so it's a difficult decision. Really, it came down to similar to what we think about when we're going to add stuff is the data points. How much does it sell? What is the guest satisfaction? What is the revenue? And is it a product that we can execute at a high level consistently? So, there might be some dishes that are a little bit more difficult to cook. A finesse item, multiple pan pickups on a saute station, or something that is really technique driven, where on its best day can really be a great item, but it's difficult to deliver on its best day when it's busy and we have 80 something items to execute. So we got rid of some classics, and we got rid of some long tenured dishes that we hope to bring back in the future for LTOs or chef feature sheets where we do some daily specials and kind of give a nod to the classics. But really, we wanted to make sure that everything on the menu was highly executable and had high guest satisfaction, so that we can, really just have 40 home runs instead of 87 items that we do well with, but we can't make it perfect every time.
So you basically cut the menu in half, which is a big deal. And
It is.
What was your process for that? Did you go through every single menu item and say yes, no?
Oh, yeah.
Data?
Yeah. So, there's some obvious ones. Every time you create a menu, you have your dogs. Sometimes the data will tell you that. Sometimes the guest will tell you that. And so, the first 10 items are pretty easy. We all know what that's going to be. But then we go through a process of, a guest feedback scoring system that we keep a database on. We take a look at PMix. What's selling really matters in terms of how fast can you move those ingredients and make sure that it's really fresh, or how much practice does our staff get on making that if they only make one or two a day. So you start to get down into there, and then you get to the bubble where certain dishes, should they go, should they stay? You can make a case for both ways. Some dishes we did keep that we intentionally we thought on the beginning of this process we were going to take away, and some of them we opted to take away. So it's a very difficult decision, but we feel like this was a good building block for the future of the culinary program.
And how long did this process take?
This process was a little bit faster than normal. We usually, it's kind of funny. Usually when we release a menu, I'm already working on the next menu. So I would say it's about a 4 or 5 month process, the evolution of the whole thing. This one we powered through in about 3 months. We really wanted to get this out before the holidays. It's a difficult time to do a lot of change during the holidays, and we wanted to get in front of our guests. We were really excited about it, and December is a great time to have a lot of guests. And, people are out, families are getting together, and we thought it was a good time. So we really made a push to make it happen a little bit faster than normal, so that we could release this before the holidays. But it was about a 3 month process all in all, which starts from the early development phases all the way down to the training in the restaurants, and then ultimately the launch. So it's been an exciting couple of months at Iron Hill.
Yeah, I would think so. I think 3 months is awfully fast to cut your menu in half and add 11 new menu items, and to get that all trained and implemented. And how many Iron Hill restaurants are there?
There's 19 Iron Hill restaurants right now.
So to get them out to all 19 locations, and what was the testing like? Like, you just say, here, guests, try this, or do you market test or operate?
So with the condensed timeline, we didn't do a market test, but what we did was, for the several weeks leading up to the menu, we took a chunk of the new items and the refreshed items, and we created feature sheets and ran them as tableside features, so that the guests could see them and give us some feedback. But then we had all the ingredients and recipes in-house, so that the chefs and the cooks could train and learn the new dishes. And we were able to get some guest feedback, get some feedback from our operators, and make some minor adjustments for the launch. But it was a great testing period to really train and get everything out there.
That's gutsy, though, to just be like, yeah, let's try these out a little bit and see what happens. Like,
yeah.
You said you had to adjust some. Did all of the 11 items that are on the menu now, the new ones, were they the original ones that you were added, or did you end up swapping some and changing them?
They were. We had 2 more entrees that we chose not to go forward with. So we tested with a couple of different entrees in the beginning, and then ultimately we thought that what we were doing already was better. So one of those examples was our Moroccan salmon dish, which is one of our most popular entrees. We had a new salmon setup ready to go. And, some of the feedback from the guests and mostly it was the people that worked for us was the Moroccan salmon is too good to let go. And so we made the last minute decision to keep that one on, and then we kept the new one in our back pocket for the future maybe.
But you also have the grilled sesame salmon that made it up, right?
Yes.
So an Iron Hill guest has two salmon choices.
Two salmon choices, that's correct. So, we set out to, we don't want to change things just for the sake of change, right? And so we set out to create the best salmon salad we can possibly produce, right? And if we, if we decide or we find out that what we're already doing is better than the new one, it's pretty easy, and it's not, it doesn't offend anybody. It's what's the best food. We really want the best possible product on the table in front of the guest. And so when you strip down all of the ego and all of the change for the sake of change, really the best food wins out.
So is the Moroccan salmon an entree and the sesame salmon a salad? Is that how it works?
Yes, we categorize it as an entree salad. So you're still getting a 5-ounce portion of salmon on there, and it's a large salad. People usually eat that as a nice lunch or a light dinner.
Yeah, I happen to have the prices sitting in front of me, and that sesame salmon salad is $19.99, which is a pretty good deal.
It is.
Good job.
We didn't take any price on this menu. It's a tough time in the restaurant industry. I'm sure a lot of your guests are probably talking about this. It's traffic is difficult to fight for, and so we really didn't want to raise any prices. This wasn't what this menu switch was about. We kept all the pricing structure the same as it was when we switched earlier in 2024, and really what we tried to highlight were new and exciting things, but also some product upgrades, and really just letting the product sing and be the star of the show, and hopefully the guest sees the value and they see the quality, and we become their choice to dine at, which is what everybody in the restaurant industry is fighting for these days.
For sure, and all of the new items, except for the steak frite, are less than $20, and the steak frite is $32.99, which for a 12-ounce New York strip is not bad at all.
Yeah, that's a great one. I as you can imagine, I had to eat a lot of strip steaks to find the right one, and it was a fun task. Yeah,
eating steak is fun. I mean, any kind of menu test, and I'm sure you have to do a lot more than I do, it sounds more fun than it is, because you got we only have one stomach. And
I know. I will. The epitome of that, or a great example of that, is when we selected our new bacon. I did a bacon cutting with one of our general managers and one of our chefs in our Voorhees location, and we tried 9 different kinds of bacon at the same table at the same time. And everybody thinks like, oh, cool, you get to eat bacon for your job, but it can be rough. It can be a lot. Like you said, you only have one stomach, and I think I gained about 10 pounds at the start of this menu process, and I tell you, I haven't lost it yet, because we're evaluating food, we're tasting the food all the time. So maybe New Year's resolution, I'll get back to the gym and shed that 10 pounds of testing weight,
or just work on the line a few shifts. And I think
exactly. Yeah,
I often see chefs when they've been rolling out, or after they've implemented a new menu item, and they trim down because they've been working so hard.
But for sure. It is a lot of work.
The process is difficult. And I mean, I'm sure you have plenty of friends who are like, oh, eating 9 kinds of bacon, that's the dream, but it's not actually.
No, it's tough. It can be tough.
So you said you upgraded some products. We talked about the bacon and the cutting of 9 different kinds that you had to sit through. What else did you? Is the burrata new? Are other things new?
The burrata's new. That's a really great product that we're excited about. Our pizza dough, our recipe is new. So we upgraded our flour to a higher quality, high gluten flour, and we modified the recipe a little bit so it's a higher hydration dough, a little bit more salt, a little bit more active yeast. So it's a little bit more bubbly, a little bit more active. You kind of get that artisanal feel with some of the chew to it. It's got a really great texture. But yeah, the pizza dough is new, and that's pretty exciting.
Anything else? Any other upgrades?
Yeah, I mean, we upgraded our tomato products in the sauce for the pizza. We brought on 3 new cheeses. So we upgraded the pecorino, our cheddar, and then the pizza cheese itself. So while we didn't overhaul the pizza section, we still have, besides the overloaded pepperoni pizza, we still have kind of our core pizzas. We did overhaul the products and the recipes to kind of improve that category without changing it so much. But yeah, we upgraded cheesesteak egg rolls is our number one selling dish. And so when everybody heard I was changing the dish, they thought you're crazy. Why would you touch the number one selling dish? But what we did was we added a new dipping sauce, the cherry pepper relish. It's a little bit of sweet, a little bit of vinegar, and then where we were offering ketchup, which is, if you're doing cheesesteak egg rolls, that's the ultimate. But we have ketchup tableside, so now we have a horseradish cream dipping sauce and a cherry pepper relish to kind of upgrade that plate without upsetting the fans of the cheesesteak egg roll, because our core recipe is still the same.
I see. So you just allowed people to augment it with some very nice sounding sauces. I mean, that pepper relish sounds a little bit like giardiniera, which might be what you'd call it if you were in Chicago, but you're in Philly. So.
I know exactly what you're talking about. A good old Chicago beef sandwich. It is a little different. It's like cherry pepper, pickled cherry pepper hash. But I do love that giardiniera, and the muffaletta is one of my favorite sandwiches too. That has that olive relish with the giardiniera there. Yeah.
Yes, from New Orleans.
Yep.
But you guys are in Philly, so you cheesesteak.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously, I want a horseradish sauce with any kind of beef, so that's exciting.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
So now, what are you doing? You rolled out the new menu. Now, are you reading all of the guest comment cards that are like, screw you, why did you take this menu item off?
We are. It's something that we're very conscious of. We're monitoring the feedback. The great news is the feedback has been, negative feedback, I should say, has been few and far between. We expected it. I've been answering some emails along with our marketing team of how could you take my favorite dish off, and it's emotional. There's a lot of restaurants that I used to go to, and they took my favorite item off, and it's kind of like, where am I going to go now? What am I going to do now? So we knew we were going to get some feedback like that. We tried to minimize it, but the good news is the feedback on the new items is really great, and people are liking some of the new stuff, and our chef teams and our operators are enjoying how manageable the product is and the size of this menu, and really we're noticing an uptick in quality of the food that's coming out of our kitchen, which is really the most important part. And over time, I think that we can win back some of those guests who are upset that lost their favorite item, just by really giving them a great experience, service, and food. I mean, that's how this game is won. You have to give them exceptional food and exceptional service. And luckily, we're a brewery. We have exceptional beer to go with that. And you just have to do that over and over and over again, and you will win back the guests that were upset, hopefully.
And you guys have hop water too, right? Like non-alcoholic hop water? I tried that once. It's really, you guys have a really good item.
It is good. It's pretty cool. So it's hop infused carbonated water for the non-alcoholics. We do offer a non-alcoholic beer, but this is a more unique, kind of more refreshing. We also have a full lineup of mocktails, so non-alcoholic cocktails that hop water is the base of. So it's pretty cool. Something a little different.
So now, I guess maybe in the new year, you're going to get back into developing the next menu rollout?
Oh yeah, for sure. I already have notes for the next rollout. We usually do at least twice a year. So there'll be some seasonal stuff that we switch out. There might be some mistakes that we made when we deleted something that worked really well for us, might make its way back to the menu. But the chef teams and I will be working on new and exciting stuff. And really, this is just the beginning of kind of a new phase of the Iron Hill culinary. And hopefully we just keep building on it.
That's exciting. Well,
Yeah.
I have taken a lot of your time. We've been talking for 30 minutes. So I want to thank you, Brendan Mullan, for hanging out with me for a little while. And I hope we get to do it in real life sometime soon.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. If you come down to the Philadelphia area, please reach out to me. We'll be able to set you up at an Iron Hill Brewery.
Chances are good. I live in New York, so Philly is not far.
Awesome.
Belgioioso Cheese is a family-owned and operated company specializing in artisan Italian cheesemaking. Using only natural ingredients and fresh local Wisconsin milk, master cheesemakers handcraft the full line of exceptional cheeses, guided by a commitment to quality and a respect for tradition. Ask your distributor about Belgioioso's award-winning fresh mozzarella, burrata, ricotta, mascarpone, American Grana, and Parmesan. At Belgioioso, every cheese is a specialty.